What's up, everyone, and welcome to Clear Talk. It is Sunday, November the 29th. Sorry for the glasses and the glare, maybe from some light on the screen. But I did want to just get on here. I was feeling like getting on again for another video to post up. Just got through playing a little bit on the drums back there, practicing on some songs, and I was just feeling in the mood to get on here and talk. So today, after Thanksgiving, and it was a good Thanksgiving. It really was. I got to see my sister from Colorado. She come down, so that was wonderful. And the kids, her kids and stuff, my niece and nephews. Love them so much, and glad that they got to come down and spend Thanksgiving with us. But so today I wanted to go ahead and get the subject of politics down. So what is my take, my political takes and ideas and direction. So a little history to start off with. I grew up, like I said in the religious one, I grew up in a fairly conservative religious household, and typically, of course, with that comes a more conservative political view as well. And so yes, I did grow up in a very Republican, conservative, Christian valued home. So it was always kind of like this understood Democrats bad, Republicans good kind of thing. Even though we weren't like a majorly political family, but when it come down to choosing a president and stuff like that, governor of the state and whatnot, it was kind of Republican. It didn't really even matter who was the nominee. You vote Republican, just the way it was. So when I did become of age at 18 to be able to vote for the first time, which was around George W. Bush's first time in office, I voted as I was brought up. I voted Republican. I voted for George W. Bush as my first act and practice of voting for president of the country. And I felt comfortable at that time at doing it. And then again, his second term, same thing. I was kind of in the same mindset at the time. So again, I voted for him the second time around as well. But about the time that Obama was running in that election cycle in 2008, that's about the time that I actually had started my conversion stuff from religion. And so my politics was not really on my mind at the time. It was all religion and trying to focus that in and strip it down and figure out where I was mentally when it come to my religious and spiritual side. So politics wasn't really even something I was that concerned with. So I did not vote in 2008 at all. Although if I were to have voted, I probably honestly would have voted for Obama. Although it was strictly more than, as I'm sure it was for a lot of people, strictly just for the fact that him being the first black president. At that time, I thought that really would be something that would sort of mend the country back together a little bit. I thought that would be, and that is kind of a shallow reason to a degree for that. But I probably would have voted for him, but I did not vote. And at that time, the whole Democrat Republican thing did not really, I didn't know what that meant for me anymore. because it was like, yeah, I started to strip down a lot of things in my life that was just sort of just thrown on me, or persuaded, influence, just because of just childhood, family, and stuff like that. This is not solely on my parents or anything. I'm talking about my entire family. And so I didn't vote for that that year, and his second term as well, I did not vote, because at that point I had started looking into politics and really trying to learn a little bit more about it, about policy and about how things, and my mind view of the country and what I wanted to see for the country and things that I wanted to I don't know, identify how to improve for the regular person, just no longer fail in the Republican conservative view, in my opinion. So I wasn't sure about the Democrat either, to be honest, though. So I was trying to learn politics a little bit more, and about the country and its history, the economics of the country, and political events and things that had happened in history throughout our country, in domestic affairs and foreign affairs and stuff like that. So there was a lot of research and studying and learning I was going through. So I did not vote in 2012 either. So by 2016, I had a much more, and another reason why I didn't vote is because I just felt at that point that it was, my vote did not even matter for my state. If I remember, I said I live in Mississippi. It's a very Republican conservative state. So vote anyway. In my opinion at that time was that it didn't matter what I voted anyway. So that's another reason why I didn't vote. But 2016, by that time I had a little bit more better understanding, of politics and my views of the country and what I wanted to see happen and improve, and the things that policy-wise would be more substantive. That's a hard word, for regular people. And at that time, in my research for over those years, I had come across a guy that in Washington, a senator and stuff like that, over the years had been advocating for a lot of things that would benefit regular people. And over he made these arguments in the House and in the Senate, and it was widely just excused by other politicians in Washington, and as radical and ridiculous, and not something that is popular amongst the American people. And it was very consistent, though, that he even in 2016 he was still talking about these same issues that he was fighting for and arguing for back in the 90s, and then learning about stuff even further back with civil rights movement and stuff like that he fought for. And if you don't know by now by who I'm describing, I'm talking about Bernie Sanders. And I had come across a lot of videos of him and had grown quite a fondness with his political mind and the way he viewed the country and what things should happen that improve in this country. So in 2016, when he ran, I was very much pushing and arguing for him to be the Democratic nominee, although I did not, at that time, I thought it was not gonna, there was no way he could win it, the nominee for the Democratic Party, because I knew the Democratic Party at that point, the stronghold that it had on corporatism and the neoliberal kind of ideology, which is basically the same in Republican, if not even worse to a degree. But if but that's what he decided to do, and so I was going to back him on it. So even though in my state he was not even on the ballot, I did write his name in 2016, just to prove my just to make a stance, really. Even though I knew it was completely pointless in Mississippi, and it wouldn't even matter. But I wrote his name in because in Mississippi you do have the option of writing a name in, and it could be anybody. I did write him in, even though I knew, I realistically it was just completely pointless. But for me, ideologically and personally, I was making a point. I was making a personal decision, and something that I could not look back on and say that yes, I voted for Hillary or I voted for Trump, because neither one, in my opinion, was even remotely deserving of the office. And to this day, I still do not agree either one of them is deserving of the office. Yes, I started to grow in this more very left, democratic, progressive viewpoint for our country. And because at that point I had learned a little bit more about the political scale on a more global level. In the United States, it's very much different. It's not the same as the global level. And we're talking from capitalism to socialism to communism. Damn, sorry, I threw a blank for a second. Socialism to communism. Those as an economical set of rules, okay, and systems. All right, there's economical systems. All right, not government systems. They are economical systems. And understanding that there's also not just and that's from right to left, right? More right, conservative, more left, a little bit more liberal, arguably. But either way, I feel that can sometimes also be in each one of those. There could be a right and left, so they're kind of not even like capital, or me looking at y'all, capital left, capital socialism. It's more like they're stacked on top of each other. So it's like if you did three-dimensional, it's capitalism, socialism, communism, and each one of them has a right and a left. All right. And those rights and lefts, conservatism to liberalism, it can be also extreme as, and there's also an up and down. Okay, so there is a authoritarian and then a more liberal, libertarian viewpoint. So you can put each one of them stacked on top of each other, in my opinion, and that's a little bit different from some scales and stuff that have put them on a kind of a diagram. But in my opinion, you really can stack them on top of each other because they are economical systems, and you can have authoritarian or liberal style governments, okay, conservative and liberal style governments in each one of them. Okay, so you can have a conservative, authoritarian, and conservative libertarian capitalist system, as well as those same in a socialist system and in a communist system. All right, but so that means each one of them can have an authoritarian makeup. You just have the right person in charge, and each one of them can have a more libertarian aspect, and that just also again depends on which one's in charge, who's actually making the rules and the laws and all that kind of stuff. So, and that, I think that's very much misunderstood, and but that's how I have understood it and have realized it. So it's not, capitalist good, socialism, communism bad, which is what American view a lot is, especially in conservative circles. in Republican circles, and that's the narrative they oftentimes push. All right, you can have a communist and socialist economical system and also be very libertarian and conservative, or even liberal. It just depends on who's in power. Now, unfortunately, because of history, a lot of our more communist style countries in history have had authoritarian rules. So that puts a very bad face on communism. Although communism isn't inherently authoritarian. Now, is it more likely to be authoritarian? There's a good argument for that, and I think that we can have a good, discussion on whether it is more capable of having authoritarian than a libertarian. But does that also mean on the opposite end, capitalism is less likely to have authoritarian? That, I would argue, is against as well. I think you can have just as much of an authoritarian government, because it's the complete opposite of communism. Socialism is a little bit more in the middle, although not directly in the middle, is a little bit more in the middle. And so I think it's a little bit more of a balance, all right, just on its own. Now, some think that that's just a gateway to communism. I do not agree with that either, all right. There's a difference, okay? There is a distinguished difference between the two. Now, in my opinion, personally, am I a socialist or communist? Absolutely not. I'm not. Am I a capitalist, a whole 100% capitalist? No, I am not. I think, in my personal view, a good blend of capitalism and socialism, with a free market, okay, so that there's freedom in trade and things like that. I think that is, in my opinion, a good middle ground, okay, a good balance, check and balance of each system, all right, so that, because socialism is more of a means owned by the actual people, okay, and I do think there's a good strong argument for that being the situation for many things in our country, okay, things that, in my opinion, should be more public, owned and operated and controlled, like our healthcare systems, like our fuel, gas, and stuff like that, oil. All that should be nationalized, in my opinion. All right, you need to cut the profit motives for these things. These are necessities that the public needs. And if you wanted to truly control the pricing, and the government wanted to truly control pricing, they would take control, and that would be socialized and controlled by the public, okay? So there was no privatizing and no profit motive for those things, those items. Pharmaceuticals, things like that, our school system, educational, even to college, things, those kinds of things. Now, can there be privatized, private institutions for those things? Sure. I mean, I don't see a problem with that. And even if we're talking, like college wise, can there be privatized colleges for what they would want to argue is a higher state of learning? Fine, whatever. But I think there should also be public colleges to have your advanced learning for free, paid by everyone as a collective. I think that's a good thing and would improve our educational system overall. But now a lot of the nuances and things that are argued, well, you still have that in regular schools, and those are not, we have some bad schools and good schools, blah, blah. There's an argument made, can be taught, and this discussion can be made there, but that's on a more anecdotal situation from area to area, and why those aren't being funded properly, okay, by the state, by the government, and things like that. Why are they not being that's the questions that need to be asked on a local level. Why are those things not being paid for properly by the taxes and stuff, by the people, from the people in that particular area? And that's something that people need to be arguing a little bit more towards. in their local governments. Well, where is our money that we're paying in going to? What are these taxes on our roads and our tickets that we get and all these other things, or license plates and whatnot? What is this money actually going to? It's supposed to be going to helping our infrastructure, it's supposed to be helping our schools, it's supposed to be helping our property taxes, things like that. Why are these things not being funded? That's something that can be argued anecdotally in specific location to location to location. But does that mean that is that an argument against public schools in general? Absolutely not. All right, people should be able to have a free education, same as our health care. People should be able to have a single payer system where everybody bids in and pays, and it's paid for. We are the only major country in the world, only industrialized country in the world that does not have this. We are the only one. And that's not an argument to say, because we're the best, that's why we don't have. No, that makes us the worst. Because we do not have that. That makes us the worst industrialized country in the world. All right? Understand that. The only industrialized country, the richest country in the world, cannot even provide health care for all of its citizens. Think about that for a second. We provide money for military and wars and all the hell we want to, but yet we can't help people right here in our own country. So I'm sorry, that's something that I do not agree with. So going on, there's a lot of things that can be changed, and I feel that a capitalist, economical type system, but with social safety nets and things taken from socialism, to make sure that the bottom, the people in middle to lower class can thrive, can survive, can in events of dire need and dire stress, we can actually survive without struggling and putting ourselves in debt and everything else just to live. I mean, we saw the issues and stuff that just happened after COVID and the coronavirus. If we would have had safety nets set in, all right, if we would have had a single payer program for this whole entire country, less people would have died. Okay, if people had a better mindset in the healthcare system, they would have understood what was being told to them to do, and I think people would have been a little bit more open to it. All right. So I'm sorry. That's my argument for that. If you don't agree, that's perfectly fine. But that's the way I feel. So that's the way I view. I think our country should move and should be more. All right. So I consider myself very much in the progressive wing of the left part of the Democratic Party, more of a left wing. Although technically the Democratic Party is not left wing. All right. I am the left wing of the Democratic Party. All right. Understand that. The Democratic Party is not left wing in this country. The Democratic Party is center right. It is the Republican Party basically of the 90s and 80s, back in Reagan's day. In Bush, the first Bush, Clinton, that's the Democratic Party. The Clinton Democratic Party is Republican. It's Republican light. It's not a left. It's not left. The Republican Party has moved further right. It is very gone extreme, and there's all these extremists in the Republican Party are making it worse. If Republicans out there, let me talk to you for a second. If you want to get your party back in line, if you want to get your party back in a better direction, okay, because I'm telling you, the path that it's going down with the people that are being pushed, and you should have seen it this past election. If you do not get your shit under control, all right, your party under control, the Republican Party will not win another election. All right. Now, it's not me advocating for the Republican Party. I'm just telling you, the country is not as extreme and right wing as you are, as the Republican Party is moving. It is not that. Yes, there is a faction of the country that is that extreme in that right wing, true enough, but it is a small and dwindling faction. More and more, this country becomes more and more liberal, more and more to the left, center to the left. Through the longer we go, the more open and understanding people become, the more educated they become about the world and about people and about just being more open to everybody and understanding and accepting of everybody and ideas and thoughts and things like that. You will move left. You will become more liberal. Conservatism at its core is just staying in the status quo. It's literally the definition of conservatism. Political conservatism is just simply status quo. It means staying the same, not progressing, not advancing, not changing, not moving with the times. That's what it is. Is that truly what you want for the country? For it to not change, for it to not move, for it to not to grow and progress, become better? You want it to just stay the same? Is what the country is right now, or even the country back in the 90s, even the country back in the 80s and 70s, 60s and 50s that y'all are talking about are so great? Is that the country, the way it was then? Is that what you really want now after eternity? Or do you think that there are aspects of those times that needed to improve, that, as a matter of fact, did improve throughout the years? Those things push progressivism. It just does. So your conservative outlooks and thoughts on the country, they're old and washed out. They're not going to happen anymore. You will continue to dwindle and get smaller and smaller, stuck in your old ways. And that's fine if that's what you want. Perfectly fine. But just understand that fighting for it isn't going to make it any better. And it certainly doesn't make you look better. So I apologize for going off such a long rant tangent there, but that's just my views. So going forward, and that's my thoughts, is that in my opinion, I am more of what you would call a social democrat. A left wing of the I don't even want to say I'm a Democrat, but it's just a left wing ideology, a more progressive ideology, an ideology that's looking for policies and stuff that will actually provide something of substance for normal people. Y'all, the argument is that will provide, if we allow things for the people, that's going to become social for regular people. That's going to turn into socialism. That's going to turn into communism. It's such a stupid, ignorant argument. But we technically, right now, in our capitalist system, we have socialism for the rich. Think about it. We give money to the wealthy corporations and the rich all the time. Tax cuts like crazy. They pay less taxes on a percentage of their income than we do. Now, yeah, I get that, as a whole, because of they have so much wealth, what little percentage of taxes they do pay is technically more than the bottom, 30, 40% or more. That's not a good argument. It's not. Everybody, all the wealth, all the way up should be taxed. And the more you make, the more it should be taxed. FDR had it right. Reagan screwed it up. Simple as that. We had a huge economic boom from FDR to Reagan. We had the most rapid growth, and that's because the rich were taxed out the ass. They still accumulated wealth, but they didn't consume and hoard it all. It was put back into the system. It was put back towards the infrastructures and the companies, smaller companies, and the people and things like that. That money was put back in. Now I'm sure there was some money that was put to shit, but you can look back and you can't argue against the fact that it was better times back then, and that was the reason why. Simple as that. Reagan screwed it up, taxing tax cuts like hell for all the rich, and the rich just took off with money. Since the 70s, that's what's happened. Reaganomics and the trickle-down effect has ruined this country. And the continuation of that ideology has ruined the Republican Party. As simple as that. The Republican Party needs to look back at Eisenhower. That was one of the best Republican presidents that you ever had. Not Reagan. You need to change. You need to change your thoughts and your ideas for our country. Because your policies, the policies that are implemented by the Republican Party, those in control of the Republican Party, and this is not even people, because the people probably would argue against a lot of stuff the Republican Party does if they actually paid attention to it. Just like they would argue against a lot of the Democrat Party does too. I know I do. They're both screwed up. They're both wrong. But when it comes to social safety net stuff, when it comes to the, who I think at least, I don't know, sometimes throws a bone, the Democratic Party is the one that throws the bone. Even if it's just scraps, that's the ones that throws the bone. Republicans don't. So you can be mad that I, or not agree with me or whatever, but I'm just telling you like it is. Clear talk. All right, I'm being clear with you. So, anyway, I just wanted to get that out. I know this was going to be a long video because politics is very close and dear to me. It has been now for quite a few years, and it will probably be a big part of this channel. So anything you want to talk about, add, discuss, any topics you want me to expand upon, let me know in the comments or whatever. And I think I forgot in the last couple of videos, but if you do like this content and you want to see more of it, please consider subscribing and click the notification bell if you want to receive notifications as soon as I drop a video. All right, and comment, share, like, all right, let people know, and just help grow this community and help our growth as a community, talking and discussing all kinds of different things that we can get our hands into. So, so anyway, this has been Clear Talk, and with me, JMD, and until next time.